I mean, let's take like a UFC 100. You know, UFC 100, which was big. We spent a ton of money advertising. We did all this stuff. Still didn't get the attention that this fight's getting. Nothing. I mean, trying to think of a fight that we've done, and then if you talk about popularity, like a fight that was just big and felt big and everything else, like a Lesnar fight or Chael Anderson 2. You know what I mean? But still, HBO didn't show up to interview any of those guys. Time Magazine didn't write it. Forbes didn't name either one of them to top 30 under 30. And the list goes on and on.
It feels to me a little bit like before the Fox event, ironically here too, where it was like, what happens in this fight? What moves forward? What does it mean? Do you think at all, I mean, you touched on it a little bit, but do you think at all about how this fight plays out? Are you afraid, what if it's too fast? What if it's too slow? What if it's too long?
I can't control that. I always worry about things that I can control. Sometimes I worry about things I can't control too, but I'm lying. Whatever happens, happens. It's just, this thing could go out. This could be this could be Stephan and Forrest, and it's this war back and forth. The crowd's going crazy. It could be a 13-second armbar or a 5-second knockout. I mean, anything could happen, and it's going to be. And you know how that's going to go. Let's say it comes out. There's always different ways that this play out. Let's say this thing's a war and it's a battle. Ronda Rousey isn't as great as everybody said she was. This girl's a sticker. And let's say it's a 5-second armbar. Oh, Jesus. Liz Carmouche didn't belong in there. I mean, there's just going to be so many things. Who gives a shit? This thing is going to happen, and it's going to play out however it's going to play out. And we'll go from there.
Have you started to see a little bit of backlash? It seems like I've seen some people kind of, as much as the anticipation was, some people kind of hating on Ronda this week as the fight gets closer.
It's one of the wonderful things about being successful. When you're successful, everybody hates your ass and wants to see you fall and fall hard.
And it's also historically significant for you guys to have the first openly gay fighter, especially in the main event. What does that mean for the company, and what are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, contrary to popular belief, I actually could care less, and I applaud her. And one of the things that people always ask me about athletes coming out and saying they're gay, I just think it's a personal preference. You either want to come out or you don't, and I think her story tells it the best. Don't ask, don't tell. She was in that environment, for years in the military, and when she got out, she said, I don't want to live like this anymore. I want to come out, I want to move to a place where I can be comfortable and be happy with myself and my life. I respect that, and I applaud it. Who cares? At the end of the day, really, I know how this country is and how, depending on where you live, but if you live in California or anyway, who cares if you come out? You know what I mean? Come out, and it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter to me. So anybody who wants to come out in the UFC, knock yourself out.
At the same time, she said that she thinks it would be very, very difficult for a guy to do it in this sport. I mean, do you agree with that?
I think it's probably one of those things. Again, I can assume. I can't speak to what it's like to be gay and to want to come out and want people to know. I can't tell you what that feels like or what it's like, but I would imagine there's some people that are probably dying to do it and some people that aren't. I can tell you right now, if you are a guy and you are gay and you come out in the UFC, it will not change anything whatsoever in how you are marketed or your performance or your relationship with this company. I could care less.
When you started seeing, when you wanted to bring Ronda Rousey in the UFC, and you started looking at the other fighters, out there, the women's fighters, were you surprised by, the high level of fighting that they were at?
Yeah, and that 135-pound division, there's a lot of talented people there, And what I always said to you guys is, there's not a division, it's not deep enough to put on, then you get somebody like Ronda. You know what I mean? You get somebody like Ronda, you got to have something to kickstart. You know what I mean? You got to have something to kickstart. She's more than kickstarted the women's division. You go out there and you give her this fight, and now there are contenders. You give contenders a shot. You tell their story, and you see. You got to have something to start with. And she was it.
How did Liz emerge as the leading candidate for the first contender? Because it seems like Misha would have been an easy sell. There's heat between them, and you can put that on a prime time and sell.
Listen, I know there's been a lot of things that have been said since we made this fight. She's the one that took the fight. She's the one that wanted the fight at the time that this fight was happening. Other people were called, and other people did turn down the fight. It's a fact.
Even though they like to say that.
Even though they like to say that, do this shit all the time. You know, guys are like, I didn't turn down that fight. Yeah, you did. If you didn't take it, you turned it down. Right? If you don't take the fight, you turn the fight down. Well, I don't want to do the fight then. Well, that's when the fight's fucking happening. Right? That's the date of the fight.
Danny, I think UFC fans are ready for a non-Ronda main event.
I think that what you have to do is first of all, what we've done is we've taken these two women, you promote them, you tell their story, who they are, you know they're talented, you know they can fight, and you make that fight happen, right? And then whatever happens after that, you have girls that are in line that you can start rotating in and fighting and building up. The funny thing is when people ask me these questions, how is this any different than the men if you're dealing with talented people? You know, and I love, again, I'll go back to the line we're in primetime. What's her name? Lucia Riker says there's only so many stars in any sport, and this was the girl it took to launch this thing. She's the one. Now, if she has all these accolades and everybody thinks she's so great, and she loses on Saturday night to Carmouche is the girl. Now, we've been in situations before with men where you might have a guy who's a champion, he's popular, he sells tons of pay-per-views. The guy who beats him isn't necessarily the guy that's gonna, now I take the torch and I sell all the pay-per-views and I do this and I get all the media attention. It doesn't work that way with the guys or the girls. So who knows? We'll see what happens.
With the acceptance of women's fighting, everything we heard that the planned co-main in Sweden was a female fight, that it was a Misha fight. I don't know if you can comment on that, but you know why they weren't ready.
Gary Cook said, we made the fights, we put the card together, and when he heard it was, he's like, I don't know if we're ready for that yet. Joe Silva said, they're absolutely ready for that in Sweden. They've been doing that over there in Sweden for years, but he's our guy over there, and he didn't want to do a co-main event with the women at first.
That's a non-MMA guy saying that, so would you side with the MMA?
What's that?
He's coming from the outside looking in, right? Mm-hmm. So would you side with Joe in that sense?
No, I'd go with average Joe guy and what he thinks.
Okay.
We live in a fucking bubble, my friend. You know what I mean? We do. I catch myself doing it all the time. Like, there's times where we'll produce a show that we're going to put on TV, and I'll be watching it, and I'll be like, wait a minute, what the fuck am I thinking here? We didn't even ID this person. We expect everybody to know who these people. Nobody knows who we are. You know, we're still not mainstream. It's not like watching a fucking football game or a baseball game, and I lose track of that sometimes, and so do you guys, because we all live in this bubble where we all know so much shit, and it's, you know, who doesn't know about an arm bar, and that's ridiculous, and you know, because we live in this MMA bubble.
Dana, you mentioned the winner of H.E.A.T and Henderson getting John Jones, but what if Chael was to beat John? How feasible is a Henderson versus Chael fight?
Here we go. That'll be the next big thing. Oh, look, they know that he's going to fight. Whoever wins that fight will fight the winner of, right.
Well, but the question really
I wasn't predicting that.
No, I understand, but the question about how feasible is a Chael versus Hendo fight, you know, considering their history together?
It's very, very, very feasible. Those guys were actually talking smack to each other when this fight happened. They'll fight.
Is it set in stone that that's because last week you said, you know, Gustafsson, if he wins in April, might be right there as well.
But this fight will already happen.
Right.
You know what I mean? So then if Gustafsson wins, you know, he could be after
then, maybe.
Yeah. It's all timing issues and injuries. Who's to say these two aren't going to go 3 rounds like him and Shogun went? You know what I mean? And one of them could end up hurt. You just never know what's going to happen.
Did you make some comments at the post-fight press conference this past weekend about the whole testosterone, deal? Can you go over your stance on that again? Because it's an issue in this fight with Hendo. And
I think that testosterone replacement therapy has become a way to cheat. Any good thing that comes about, like, that's a great thing that sports science figured out a way for a guy whose testosterone is going down as he gets older to bring it up to normal levels. And what you're going to do is you're going to get guys then to go, well, if I can get this much and that brings me to normal levels, that's great. How much is this fucking much going to do for me? You know what I mean? Yeah. And they crank it through their entire camp and then wind it down toward the end of camp. So what you get is stronger, faster, recover faster from injuries, little nagging things that happen, you recover faster from your workouts, while the other guy who's not on TRT and is training on his natural abilities and doing weight training and doing the shit that normal people do, doesn't get the same benefit that the guy who's on TRT does. You know? And I just, let me just put it this way. And you guys know when I believe that people have cheated on it. And I don't like it. It bothers me. You know? All the things, and you know, believe me, and we'll get, you guys got to be fucking just dying to ask me the Fitch question right now. You know, it's like, who's going to be the dick and say it first? The thing is that, you know, and I've been hearing everything over the past couple weeks, from the TRT thing to Fitch to this to that, you know, on Twitter and everything else. At the end of the day, what you have to understand about me, and is this a fucking business that we run? Yes. This is absolutely 100% a business. But when you think back to when we got into this sport, right? And again, talking to hardcore people, and now that we're sitting here in Anaheim, sold out, all the things that have been accomplished over the last 13 years, and that now 2 women are fighting all this shit, it's all like a big fucking no-brainer now, right? Big no-brainer. 13 years ago when we bought this company, the Fertitta brothers have invested in just about everything you can invest in, from gaming to liquor to restaurants to this to that. Their people thought that this was the fucking dumbest idea in the history. I'm serious. People were pissed. The UFC was the redheaded stepchild of the Fertitta portfolio for a very long time. Because after that $2 million stupid purchase, it went another $44 million into the hole, right? So when you look at this thing, the one thing that everybody has to understand, I don't give a fuck if you believe me or you don't believe me. We love this sport. We're passionate about this sport. Obviously, we love the UFC brand. We fucking own it, okay? We always try to do the right thing. We pay guys more than what their contract says we have to pay them. I have 3 fights left with Cain Velasquez. We just signed a new 8-fight deal with Cain Velasquez. We re-signed him. I didn't have to do that. He deserved it. We did it. And the list goes, health insurance, and the list goes on and on and on of all the things that we've done. So when people, the thing that drives me the craziest is when people try to say, oh, these guys are just money hungry, this and that. Money hungry, you know, guys wouldn't have fucking bought this company in a million years. These guys, with the money that the Fertitta brothers had, they could have invested in a zillion other things that were safer, smarter, and probably would have worked out for them. This thing was the biggest long shot in history, but it wasn't about that. It was about the fact that we love this sport. Anyway, let's get into Fitch. So first I want to apologize. And I don't remember all the guys who were exactly the guys. Vladimir Matyushenko was one of them. Grisby was one of them. And there were a few other guys that when Ariel Helwani tweeted that, they didn't know that they were cut. And that is 100% my fault. I take full responsibility for it, and I apologize. Because first of all, Vladimir Matyushenko, I've known him since we bought this company. I love that guy. I respect him very much as a fighter, and I have a great relationship with him, and I always have. And it's bothered me for the last 2 days that I did that to those kids. To find out on Twitter or through somebody else that you were cut instead of getting the phone call first. You know? And believe me, I got the Joe Silva fucking phone call that hadn't even been relayed to the fighters yet. You know? And I really do apologize to all the guys that happened to. Number 2, this is a fucking sport just like NFL, Major League Baseball, NBA, or any other sport. Now everybody is so, I mean, the words that I was reading on Twitter, fucking, this is a travesty. This is like a fucking tidal wave hit the biggest populated place on fucking planet Earth and wiped out tons of women and children and innocent people. Give me a fucking break, okay? This is a sport just like any other sport. Woodson just got cut. The Green Bay Packers just cut Woodson, okay? And a million other guys are getting cut, traded, and everything else. John Fitch is ranked number 9, okay? However you want to look at that, he's ranked number 9, whether you think it's right, it's wrong, or the rankings are bullshit or whatever. He's ranked number 9 right now, right? Now, this isn't a case where John Fitch was ranked number 9, number 7, number 6, number 4, number 2, and then we cut him. He was ranked number 1, fought for the title, then he was ranked number 2, he was ranked number 3, 6, 7, and now he's 9. That's called the downside of your career. He's on the downside. He's lost 2 2 fights, 1 draw, and 1 fight. And everybody, and then I saw stuff. I just wanted, because I got shit in my head from Twitter and all the other shit that I've been reading, right? Oh, it's because he beat Eric Silva. He beat his guy in Brazil and all this shit. Who the fuck is Eric Silva beat? That was Eric Silva's first real fight. It was a great fight. They won fight of the night. He won a bonus for it. Okay? Now, John Fitch can go out now, and he can, Viacom's got plenty of money. Okay? Viacom MMA isn't hurting for fucking cash. There's a lot of other places where this guy can go and he can make some money. The other thing is, John Fitch was ranked #1 in the world, and yes, John Fitch gets paid a lot of money to put John Fitch on a fucking prelim or put John Fitch over here. The difference between John Fitch and Charles Woodson that just got cut, right? John Fitch can go get a couple more fights and come back to the UFC. Happens every fucking day. All the time. So it's not like John Fitch was on this incredible fucking winning streak, one of the greatest fucking welterweights in the history of the world. This guy's a fucking Hall of Famer. Guy's never won a fucking title in his life. What do you consider a Hall of Famer? If fucking John Fitch is a Hall of Famer, that fucking thing's gonna be packed. It's gonna be one fucking huge Hall of Fame. You know what I'm saying?
How much does his style factor into it? I think that's a lot of questions.
Here's the other thing. Wait, before we get to his style, here's the other thing. Dana hates John Fitch. He's hated him forever, and he's just been waiting to cut him since that video game deal. Are you fucking shitting me? There's nobody in the history of this business that I hated worse than Tito Ortiz. You know what I mean? Every time I'd sit down in my chair and watch the fight, I'd be like, beat his ass. That's how bad I hated this guy. He ended his career in the UFC. There were guys, Rampage Jackson was just spewing all kinds of craziness about us. Came in the fight, he fought. I saw him in the backstage, I shook his hand before the fight. And then when he walked away, he said, "You're gonna miss me." I said, "I miss you already, brother." You know what I mean? No hard feelings. This whole John Fitch Dana battle is so fucking overrated. I don't have 1 ounce of hate for John Fitch. I don't hate the guy at all. I don't even dislike him. Not even a little bit. I like John Fitch. So give me some feedback here. So
the style? How much does the style factor into? Because
listen. What's his name? I get crazy and everything jumps out of my head. He just fought in England. Riddle. Thank you. Let's talk about Riddle. Do I hate him? Do I hate his style? Am I going to try to get him out of here now? And Riddle fights just like Fitch. Same fight. Well, he has been lately anyway. He went from being super exciting to now, he wants to grab your legs and hold you down and this is mixed martial arts. What made the Eric Silva John Fitch fight so great is that Eric Silva could actually neutralize his wrestling a little bit and hit him with some strikes. That's what made it such a great fight. It actually goes the other way. If you're a guy who can actually be laid on, Shea Mills, people are fucking, Shea Mills was cut? If you didn't know how I felt about the way Shea Mills fought that night, this is the UFC. This is the pinnacle of this sport. The best fighters in the world fight here, okay? And if you get that top position with 35 seconds left, and then you just stand there, and then you stand up, and then you walk away, and then you get double-legged again for the last 25 seconds, you didn't want that fucking fight bad enough. Fans are going crazy on me. He was tired. Well, if you're that fucking tired in 3 rounds, you don't belong here either. You should be in better shape than that.
So what's your recommendation to
The
fighters?
recommendation is this is a fucking combat sport, one of the toughest sports in the world, and anybody who's a professional athlete, you have that window, make the fucking most of it while you're here.
So is it better to fight safe and try to get the win so you don't get cut, or is it better to go out there and maybe you get knocked out?
If that's the way you think when you go out and fight, maybe you shouldn't be here either. What you should do is you should go out and try to be the best in the world. And you should try to whoop everybody's asses impressively. It depends on how much money you want to make, Do you want to go around and lay on guys? How many people are beating down the door, to see any of those guys fight again? And actually, the response that John Fitch has had is awesome. I'm glad that many people are behind him and support him. That's not a bad thing. Good for him, But I can tell you this, John Fitch isn't cheap. So, good. Viacom MMA has some money. So he can go out there right now, he can go out on the free market and find out exactly what he's worth. right?
I think what some people have a problem with is just the fact that, like Leonard Garcia and Dan Hardy were defending themselves on Twitter yesterday because fans were saying, oh, you guys still have a job, you guys keep losing. I mean, can you just, I think that all of us, and you talk about the bubble, we can say, well, there are some fighters who are in the UFC primarily, and they're great fighters, but for entertainment value.
So no, that's not true. So here's the question. Look at any sport. Anybody who owns a team or a league or anything like that, when you look at your, here's another fact. We have 470-something guys under contract, okay? We have over 100 guys too many. We have over 100 guys too many on the roster right now, okay? So what's gonna happen is, when you lose, listen, the blood has not all been spilled yet. There's more coming.
It's not every day you cut a top 10 fighter, though.
Yeah.
And that's why.
Top 10 fighter on his way down the ladder.
Well, yeah.
Not on his way up the ladder.
Maybe so, but John Fitch only lost 3 times in 7 years.
Yeah.
And he tied.
And guess what's going to happen to John Fitch? He will end up at Bellator or one of these other organizations, and he will win a world title. He'll be a champion there. He will smash every single guy over there, and he'll be a champ.
If he gets a few fights outside, do you think he'd welcome him back?
When has that never happened? The guy goes out, wins a few fights, has some impressive runs, and then comes back. I mean, this isn't the first guy we've ever cut. And the whole thing, like, this is the fucking biggest disaster in the history of the world. This shit's crazy. The guy's going this way. He's not going that way. He didn't go fucking 9, 7, 6, 5, 4, and we cut him. He went number 1 to fucking number 9. And he's super fucking expensive. And he'll end up somewhere, and he can come back.
Is that it, kind of like you mentioned Kane deserving a re-up? You gave him the re-up even though you didn't need to. This is kind of the opposite of that.
Yeah. This is the business. This is the sports business. It's the way it happens. I mean, there's no better explanation than Charles Woodson. The guy won the Heisman Trophy for defense. Defensive player. And he just got cut.
You could counter that, though, that Charles could go to another NFL team and he's still playing in the NFL, the brand of the NFL.
Yeah.
For John, you strip the UFC brand. It's difficult in that sense.
Your guys are independent contractors.
That's the sport. That's life, and this is what I always tell these guys, man. When we talk, we are only as good as our last fight. Not you, we, all of us. Me, the UFC, and the fighters. We all feel it. When you have a bad fight and you go on a skid, it's not good for any of us.
Were you expecting this type of fallout from the fans? We're cutting John Fitch. Were you expecting to get this type of reaction, or is it a little shocking?
I never even thought about it. It's awesome. That's good. I'm happy that the fans are behind John Fitch. You know what I mean? It's good. I don't hate John Fitch. I don't dislike John Fitch. But to say that this is like the biggest fucking tragedy in the history of the world and all the shit that was coming, I was like, this is fucking ridiculous.
Dana, how involved are you with these? Obviously, when it's like
I'm involved in everything. So anything that goes wrong or anything you don't like, blame me.
Was it your call on this?
Blame me.
like if there's a lower, less big name guy.
Yeah, I wasn't calling Joe Silva up going, you fucking cut John Fitch?
Of course, but did he say I want to cut him? And you said I agree, or did you say I want to cut him? How did that work?
Our guys come to us and say this is what we want to do.
And then you say,
approve or disapprove.
Has it ever happened where someone like Joe or Sean would say I want to cut this guy, and you say no?
Yeah.
Okay. So you
anything that you don't like, any decision that you don't like and you think is wrong and stupid and fucked up is me. Blame me. Don't blame Joe Silva. Don't blame anybody else. Blame me.
What do you blame on getting 100 fighters too heavy? Is it Strikeforce, women, flyweight?
No, you know what? We've been, first and foremost, when you get in here, people are like, oh, they're going to start kicking real fucking guys out to bring in the women and stuff. No. What's happened is, again, contrary to fucking popular belief, we're good guys. Guys lose some fights and they're, you know what? Dan Hardy puts it out there all the time. We're going to keep Dan Hardy. I want to keep Dan Hardy. I want to keep Leonard Garcia because the guy's got fucking heart and he comes in and fights and does this, and then you get into a situation where you got a lot of guys here. I tell the fucking guys from The Ultimate Fighter, every one of you are going to fight in the card. I tell you, you get in these situations sometimes. You go on a fucking skid in this business. You got to go, and you got to come back. Go win some fights and come back. No different than it has ever been since day one of this company. Same exact thing. And when we cut a guy that's ranked number 9, The guy's on the way down the ladder, not up the ladder.
So how long is the rope then for a guy like Uriah Faber?
Yeah, could be Saturday. You never know. There's over 100 guys who are heavy.
Can you really say Fitch is on his
So,
way down?
and the big question is, who?
Can you really say Fitch is on his way down if he's only lost to 2 top 5 guys?
Well, he was ranked number 1, fought for the title, and now they got him ranked number 9. I mean, and if you really sat down yourself and honestly fought to a draw with BJ Penn, right? Got knocked out by Hendricks, and that division is a nasty fucking division. I mean, just this tournament we're doing up in Montreal. You look at this thing and go like, wow, these guys are definitely all the best guys there right now. Where does John Fitch fit into that? 9 is probably correct.
But he still hasn't lost back-to-back fights. You know, you're saying he's on a skid, and I agree with you. He hasn't had the best performances.
Well, he didn't lose back-to-back fights. He had a draw, then a loss, right?
Then a win.
Then a win, then a loss.
Fight of the night win.
Yeah, it's good. He got more money. Got fight of the night because it takes 2 guys to do that, right? If Eric Silva's wrestling wasn't right there, that wouldn't have been fight of the night. You understand what I'm saying? And at the end of the day, when you really break it down, you're just like, well, he's the only guy, he hasn't lost back-to-back. Who did Eric Silva beat? This was Eric Silva's first real big fight and real test. And it was a damn good fight of the night. That's called a skid. He's on the downside. He's not on the upside. He's not knocking guys off and buzzsawing through guys. He's not doing a Hendricks. He's not doing he's not like the other guys in that division. And, he had a draw before that.
Dan, I'm going to shift gears just for a second. A lot of firsts in this building. First fight in California, first fight on Fox, on the first women's title bout. Why this venue? Why do you come back here for some of the biggest events?
Southern California, man. This place has always been a hotbed. Love the Honda Center. These guys always treat us great. And we always do well here. We always do really well here. So,
Can you finish the thought on Faber?
What's that?
Faber, you started to talk about him and then you jumped back to Fitch.
Yeah, I mean, he's in one of those situations too. Yeah, definitely. Saturday could be a bad day for him. Got 100 guys, over 100 guys.
Reports out of Brazil.
Any guy out there. And then again, going back to, so what does the guy do? Does he fight safe? Does he do this? Oh, they're going to incentivize him. Let me tell you what you better do. You better fight your fucking ass off, make it good and win. That's the only way people want to see you. People want to see you when you're exciting. Unfortunate. Sucks. Be nice if you just go lay on a guy for 3 rounds and people would love it and want to buy all your pay-per-views. Welcome to the fucking real world, guys. It's not how it works.
You mentioned Hendricks in the rankings. What about the fact that he's not getting the title shot?
The fact that he's not getting a title shot. He wins, he'll get the next title shot.
Are the rankings going to be the new thing, though, that everyone's going to beat you up about this year?
No doubt about it. But the rankings, I've explained a zillion times. What we did with the rankings is this country, as you begin to get more mainstream, that's not what they live and die on. Who's number 1? Who's number 2? Who's this? Who's that? Put together a media poll. The media votes, the media decides who the rankings are, and we put them up as the UFC rankings. Am I going to follow word by word the media rankings? No, I'm going to put on fights that people want to see. And there's going to be situations where I get into a position where my champion, who's been an absolute stud for us and done anything we've ever asked of him, calls me up and says, I want Diaz. I'm going to tell him no. You're fighting Johnny Hendricks? No, I'm not going to tell him no. You want Diaz? You'll get Diaz. And trust me when I tell you, people want to see that fight.
Getting a couple reports out of Brazil that Anderson Weidman looks likely for the 4th of July weekend. Is there any progress on those negotiations?
That's what we want. But no, we don't have it yet.
Have you talked to, I know you said you hadn't even talked to Anderson like a week ago. Has that changed? Have you started moving forward on that at all? Or?
Yeah. We've been talking to him, yeah.
So that's the target, but
it's
no
done.
agreement,
Yeah,
it's not done.
No, we'll get it done.
Okay.
Yeah. What's that? Oh, I do? Okay, I gotta do it. Wait, before we wrap up here, any more questions about Fitch? I don't want you guys to go, fuck, I wish I asked him that.
You sound like you're ready for the fan Q&A tomorrow.
I'm ready, man. I'm ready for any Q&A.
I saw that you were in the Q&A.
I don't want any of you to walk away here going, oh, I should have fucking asked him that question.
I guess
ask me.
The thing I see people asking is this sport? Is this entertainment? Is this business? What is it? Because in a sport, if you win, you're around. If you're ranked, you're around. How do you balance that all out?
How do you figure that? If you're in a sport and you're ranked and what exactly does that mean? It's different. It's not, this isn't football or basketball. We're talking about combat sports. So you either have this or boxing to compare it to, okay? And if you look at boxing, you have guys that are ranked, there's fucking 20 different rankings and guys are all over the place. You know what I mean? And it doesn't mean that a guy, just because he's ranked number 9, This isn't a guy that was on his way up. He's like going up like a fucking missile, and we're like, that's it. He's at number 3. Cut this guy. He's fucking making too much money. He's doing this and doing that. The guy is on a skid. Whether you want to admit it, you want to look at his record, or however you want to do it, a skid is a skid. A draw, 2 losses and a win, and the win is over a kid who hasn't fought anybody.
But was a big prospect. The reason why many guys have been on skids.
Yeah.
The top 10 guys not on
I-
skids. So that's what the people are like, all right, this guy's on a skid, this guy's
But
on a skid.
I did just say that. At the end of the day, you know.
It's how. You're saying it's how you're fighting.
No. Have you been here?
I have.
I said, first and foremost, don't ever think that this isn't a business, because it is. Number 1, It is a business. Number 2, John Fitch makes a lot of money. He gets paid a lot of money, and he's on a skid. He's on his way down, whether he's ranked number 9 in the world or not. It doesn't mean that he's still, that he's still going to stick around here. There's 100 more guys going to go. You hear that one?
Yes.
So it's not over. There's going to be other guys that are going to go. Some of the names that were thrown up there, I mean, Shea Mills, super nice guy. I like Shea Mills. Shea Mills showed me that night he did not want it. And I go back to Bobby Green. Bobby Green fought Volkman. Bobby Green did not fucking quit in that fight. Referee screwed him big time. Right when he finally gets that top position and he's doing damage, she stands him up, right? The kid stayed in there and he fought to the end, and he fought till he won. If you want to stay in this fucking company, that's how you better fight. That's what you better do.
Be Bobby Volkman? Or
Yeah.
Bobby Green?
Yeah, be Bobby Green, man. Be those fucking kids that came in that night from Strikeforce were so hungry. They were hungry, man. And that's what I want. I want guys that are hungry. Do I like John Fitch? Yes. Do I dislike him in any way? No. Do I respect him as a fighter? Yes, I do. But not the biggest tragedy on earth. He will end up somewhere else, and if he keeps winning, he will come back. And if he does end up somewhere else, he will become a champion. Nobody will beat him in any other organization.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Dan. Appreciate it.
Thanks, guys.
Dan.